Human, you will be mine. The girl proposal shocked the court. The Galactic Court was the greatest meeting place in the known galaxy. Its walls shimmered with living light, changing color depending on who walked past. Delegates from thousands of different species filled the grand hall, each with shapes, colors, and forms that made humans feel small and fragile. Some had 6 arms, glowing eyes, or bodies made of semi-liquid material. Every species seemed larger, stronger, and more dangerous than humanity. Into this intimidating hall stepped Ethan Hale, the human envoy. He was not tall, not strong, and had no armor that could rival the alien suits surrounding him. Even the floor seemed to hum with the weight of so many powerful beings. Still, he walked steadily, his dark eyes observing everything. Every movement, every whisper, every glance told him something. Humans had survived for centuries by learning quickly, thinking fast, and trusting their own instincts. Today would test all of that. The session began with the usual pomp. Voices, some high-pitched, some deep and vibrating like metal, debated humanity's future. Many species considered humans a risk. Weak physically, yes, but unpredictable. Clever, yes, but emotional. Dangerous in ways they could not control. Many delegates argued that humans should be permanently placed under the supervision of more powerful empires. Ethan listened quietly. He was used to underestimation. It had been humanity's greatest weakness, and yet their greatest strength. No one expected humans to rise above danger until they already had. Then, in the midst of the argument, the hall fell silent. The air seemed to change. Every species turned as Lady Salith stepped forward. She was from the Krillian Empire, one of the most feared civilizations in the galaxy. Her kind ruled through strength, skill, and honor. No one dared challenge her openly. She was tall, elegant, and her presence alone made the room tense. Her skin shimmered faintly like polished silver, and her eyes glowed a soft green. She walked to the center of the hall and faced Ethan directly. "Human, you will be mine," she said. The words echoed through the grand chamber. Silence followed. Then whispers, gasps, and shocked exclamations spread like fire. No one had ever heard such a declaration from a Krillian noble, especially toward a human. The court could not understand what she meant. It was not a declaration of fear, nor a demand for submission. It was not romantic in the way human stories might imagine. It was a claim, a binding statement of choice, of recognition, and perhaps even of alliance. The kind of claim that, once made, could change the political balance of the galaxy. Ethan did not flinch. He did not step back. He met her gaze steadily. He smiled faintly, not out of arrogance but of understanding. The court's other delegates were confused. Murmurs broke out among them. Some Krillian officials looked displeased. Some alien species leaned closer, trying to understand the meaning behind the words. "What does she mean by this?" whispered a large, 6-armed diplomat to his neighbor. "No human could survive such a claim," the other replied, shaking his multifaceted head. "It is impossible." Ethan, however, knew better. Humans had survived far more dangerous things than a single Krillian noble's claim. Humans had fought wars with nothing but courage, survived deadly planets with barely any equipment, and outsmarted creatures that were stronger, faster, and deadlier. This was simply another test, one they could pass. Lady Salith raised her hand slightly and the room quieted again. "I have studied humanity," she said in a voice that was calm yet powerful. "I have watched your species from afar. You are small in strength, yes, but vast in resilience. You are fragile in body, yet unyielding in will. You make mistakes, but you rise from them. You surprise even your enemies. You are exceptional." A murmur ran through the court. Humans were usually ignored, ridiculed, or dismissed. And here was a Krillian noble praising them, praising a single human, even in front of thousands of witnesses. Ethan's heart beat steadily. He remained silent, letting her words speak instead of himself. His silence did not show fear. It showed confidence. the quiet, unshakable kind that humans often displayed when facing danger. The court demanded explanations. The head of the Galactic Court, an enormous creature with 12 eyes and wings like flowing ribbons of light, leaned forward. "Lady Salith, your claim is unusual. Explain yourself. Why would you declare a human as yours?" Salith's green eyes scanned the room. "My people only claim those we judge worthy," she said. "Strength alone does not make someone worthy. Cleverness, loyalty, courage, and the ability to choose what is right when logic says otherwise, these are traits humans possess. I claim this one because he has proven, through his species, that he can rise above the impossible." The aliens in the court whispered angrily. How dare she elevate a human, a species that had no standing, no power, no threat in the eyes of most civilizations? They accused her of arrogance. Some demanded that Ethan refuse. Others believed this was a trap. All eyes turned to the human. Ethan took a deep breath. He could have bowed, argued, or protested. Instead, he spoke simply, calmly, without arrogance, without fear. "Humans have never asked to be owned. We have never asked for protection, but we have always stood beside those who choose to stand with us." There was a pause. Silence fell. The room seemed to lean in, trying to hear if he would falter. He did not. The court realized that the human before them was not begging. He was not pleading. He was stating truth. Some alien delegates frowned. Some looked impressed. And some were beginning to rethink the assumptions they had about humanity. Perhaps humans were not as weak or fragile as they had always believed. Perhaps there was a power in them that could not be measured in muscle, technology, or weaponry. The head of the court finally spoke again. "This claim cannot be ignored, but we cannot ratify it without further discussion. The decision is postponed." Even as the court delayed judgment, the ripple effects of Salith's claim were already being felt. In every corner of the Grand Hall, species whispered, debated, and schemed. Some wanted to challenge the claim. Others wanted to see what humans could do next. Ethan and Salith exchanged a glance. She nodded once, and he returned the gesture. It was not a bond of submission. It was recognition, understanding, respect. Two different species standing in the vast hall of the galaxy, acknowledging something unique and powerful about each other. Outside the hall, in the great corridors of the Galactic Court, delegates began to speak of humans differently. No longer were they the weak, unpredictable species. Now they were dangerous, but in a subtle, unpredictable way. They were resilient. They were clever. And above all, they were capable of surprising even the greatest powers in the galaxy. Ethan walked back through the corridors with quiet confidence. Every step echoed with the promise that humanity's story was far from over. And in the shadows of the hall, some of the most powerful species in the galaxy realized that they had underestimated humans for the last time. By the time Ethan left the court chamber, the words had already spread. "Human, you will be mine." The phrase became a symbol. Not of ownership, but of recognition. Not of submission, but of respect. Humanity, small and fragile in appearance, had captured the attention of one of the galaxy's strongest warriors. And the galaxy would never forget it. The news of Lady Salith's claim spread quickly through the corridors of the Galactic Court. Every species reacted differently. Some whispered in fear, others in curiosity. Some laughed, thinking humans were too small and weak to deserve such attention. Others looked thoughtful, reconsidering what they knew or thought they knew about humanity. Inside the grand chamber, the delegates continued to argue. Most alien leaders could not understand the claim. Humans were weak, they insisted. Humans were small. They had no powerful weapons that rivaled the Krillians, no fleets to match the Tarash, and no armies as massive as the Vorans. How could one of their kind be worthy of a Krillian noble? Yet Lady Salith remained calm. Her green eyes scanned the room and her voice echoed through the chamber. "You misunderstand. This is not about power or size. It is about will. It is about courage." It is about the ability to rise when all odds are against you. Humans do this daily, the court murmured. One large, six-limbed diplomat shook his head. Courage, will, these are words. Words cannot save planets, defeat armies, or control fleets. Salith's expression hardened. Words may not, but actions do. And humans have shown actions. They adapt, they survive. They inspire others to follow them even when survival seems impossible. That is why I choose this human. All eyes turned to Ethan Hale. He remained calm, his posture straight. He had faced hostility before, from warlords, corrupt officials, even predators that were stronger and faster than any human should survive. Each time, humans found a way to adapt, to learn, and to overcome. And here, in the greatest court of the galaxy, he would do the same. A tall, armored Vorin delegate stood up. His voice was deep and rumbling, shaking the floor slightly. If this human is truly worthy, let him prove it. Let him show us why a Krillian noble should risk her honor on a species that is barely more than a child in strength. Ethan nodded slightly. He knew the test was coming. It was not about weapons or armies. It was about survival, intelligence, and courage. Humans had survived far worse. Salith stepped closer to Ethan, her presence alone radiating authority. You may speak, human. But remember, words alone are not enough. Your actions, your decisions will matter more than anything you say. Ethan cleared his throat. I do not ask for your trust, he said simply. I do not ask for your mercy. I am here to show that humans are capable. That we make choices that matter. That we can rise above challenges that others believe impossible. And if I fail, then my species will accept the consequences. But if I succeed, perhaps the galaxy will see that humans are not what you think. The court fell silent again. His words were not boastful. They were calm, measured, and confident. Even the skeptics in the audience could feel the weight of his conviction. Before the delegates could respond, a sudden alarm echoed through the hall. Lights flashed red. The chamber doors sealed automatically. Panic spread among the delegates. A voice boomed through the court speakers. Warning! Unauthorized intrusion detected. Security breach in progress. Chaos erupted. Some delegates tried to escape, but the doors would not open. Others began scanning for threats. In the center of the room, Ethan's eyes flicked to the source of the disturbance. It was calculated. It was precise. Someone had planned this. Salith's expression did not change. Instead, she turned to Ethan. This is your moment, human. Show them why I chose you. Ethan nodded, already thinking. The human mind had a way of seeing patterns, predicting outcomes, and finding solutions quickly. While the aliens panicked, he scanned the hall, noting security protocols, energy flows, and escape routes. He could feel the pulse of the court, the rhythm of its systems. Humans did not rely on strength, they relied on cleverness, adaptability, and quick thinking. Using the communication panel at his side, he began redirecting security protocols. Doors that were locked could be temporarily overridden. The saboteurs had expected the court systems to fail completely, but they had not counted on a human's ability to improvise. Lights flickered. Alarms blared. Delegates shouted orders in dozens of languages. But Ethan remained calm. He guided smaller species to safe zones, blocked dangerous corridors, and predicted where the attackers would strike next. Then the saboteurs appeared. They were a group of alien mercenaries, equipped with advanced weapons and cloaking devices. Their goal was clear: remove Salith and blame humans for the failure. But Ethan was ready. Using his knowledge of the hall's design, he anticipated their movements. He led them into traps, closed doors behind them, and misdirected them with clever holographic projections. Salith watched silently, impressed. Humans were clever, yes, but Ethan's actions were extraordinary. He did not fight with weapons. He did not use brute force. He used strategy, observation, and intelligence, the true strength of his species. Finally, the saboteurs were trapped and neutralized. Security regained control, and the hall's systems returned to normal. The court erupted in stunned whispers. Delegates looked at Ethan differently now. The human they had underestimated had just saved not only Lady Salith but the entire court from a dangerous attack. Salith stepped forward, her green eyes shining. "Do you see now?" she asked the court. "This human is not weak. He is not small. He is resourceful, courageous, and capable of seeing solutions where others see only danger. This is why I claim him." Some delegates were silent, thinking. Others were visibly upset. They had underestimated humanity, and it had nearly cost them their lives. Ethan turned to the court and spoke calmly. "My species does not rely on brute force. We survive because we learn, because we adapt, and because we act when it matters most. Today, I did not act alone. Humans have always worked together, and we will continue to do so. That is our strength." The court murmured again. Some nodded quietly. Others whispered warnings to each other. A few even smiled. Humanity, the species that most had dismissed as insignificant, had proven itself in the most public way possible. Salith's voice rang out strong and clear. "I choose not a soldier. I choose not a tool. I choose a partner. One who has proven that, even in the face of impossible odds, he will act with courage, intelligence, and wisdom." Ethan nodded once. He understood the gravity of her words. He was not a weapon. He was not property. He was a representative of a species that had survived, grown, and thrived despite countless challenges. Today, he had shown why humans should never be underestimated. The court's head, 12-eyed and massive, spoke finally. This changes everything. The human has proven more than expected. Further discussion is required, but no one can deny the skill, courage, and intelligence displayed here." The room quieted. Whispers replaced shouts. Delegates began reconsidering their assumptions. The human species, small and fragile in appearance, had just demonstrated a strength that was far more subtle and dangerous than raw power. Salith turned to Ethan. "You have exceeded my expectations," she said softly. "Not with strength, not with weapons, but with what truly matters: intelligence, courage, and will. That is why I claimed you." Ethan gave a small, respectful nod. He did not boast. He did not celebrate. Humans rarely did. They survived, they acted, and they moved forward. That was enough. The Galactic Court now had a new perspective. Humanity was no longer simply a weak species to be monitored. They were clever, resilient, capable of survival and unexpected victories. And most importantly, they could not be underestimated. As the court session ended for the day, delegates whispered to each other. Some were still angry, some were still confused. But all were thinking the same thing. Humans were far more dangerous than they appeared, and Lady Salith's claim was no longer a trivial matter. Ethan walked beside Salith as they left the hall. The Krillian noble's hand brushed lightly against his shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of what had just occurred. Humans might be small, she thought, but they were extraordinary in ways that others could never imagine. And the galaxy had just been given its first warning. The court's chambers had barely settled after the sabotage attempt, but the air remained tense. Whispers continued among the delegates, and many species still questioned humanity's role in galactic politics. Some envied the humans' ability to act with intelligence and courage. Others feared it. Most were cautious, watching Ethan Hale closely. For Ethan, however, caution was not fear. Humans had survived far greater dangers than politics or galactic courts. His mind already moved ahead, analyzing potential threats, thinking of strategies, and preparing for what might come next. The Krillian noble, Lady Salith, walked beside him, her presence calm yet commanding. He had proven something today, but the galaxy would continue to test humanity. It started with a simple warning, a communication from the conquered security system. The alert was subtle at first, just a blip on the monitor, but Ethan's trained eyes caught it immediately. Something was wrong, something the aliens had overlooked. The attackers from the sabotage had been captured, yes, but there were other forces at work, invisible to most, operating in the shadows. Within hours, the court experienced a sudden, massive disturbance. The main energy fields that protected the chamber from outside threats flickered. The great doors sealed automatically. Panic spread among delegates. Alarms blared, and the massive hall shook slightly, not from natural causes but from deliberate tampering. Someone wanted chaos. Someone wanted to frame humans, or worse, remove Lady Salith. The court erupted again. Delegates shouted, some ran for safety, and some tried to maintain order. But it was clear that no one had a plan. Everyone assumed that the humans were vulnerable. Everyone assumed that Ethan would fail. Ethan remained calm. Humans had a unique ability to act under pressure without panicking. While the aliens argued and stumbled, he observed. He noted the movement of the security drones, the weak points in the chamber's defenses, and the patterns in the energy fluctuations. Humans did not rely on strength. They relied on observation, prediction, and cleverness. Lady Salith turned to him. "This is your moment," she said. Her tone was steady, her eyes full of confidence. "Show them why I claimed you." Ethan nodded once. He did not need weapons. He did not need an army. What he needed was his mind. And he had learned, over centuries of human survival, that the mind could accomplish more than brute force ever could. He directed the smaller species in the chamber to secure locations. He communicated with the security systems, overriding certain protocols that had been tampered with. He rerouted energy flows, preventing the attackers from causing a catastrophic collapse of the protective shields. His instructions were precise, simple, and effective. Aliens who could barely grasp the idea of improvisation followed his guidance because it worked. Then the attackers appeared. They were cloaked, moving silently, armed with advanced weapons designed to bypass the court's defenses. Their target was clear: remove Lady Salith and frame humans. Ethan predicted their movements. Using his knowledge of the chamber's structure, he led them into areas where their technology would fail, traps they did not anticipate, and corridors where security drones could intercept them. He did not fight with guns or blades. He fought with strategy, planning, and careful calculation. Humans were not the strongest, but they were adaptable, and adaptability was more dangerous than strength. As the attackers struggled, Lady Salith watched silently, impressed. She had chosen a human, yes, but even she did not fully realize how extraordinary they could be under pressure. She had chosen someone who could survive without weapons, without armies, and without brute force. Ethan's mind was a weapon stronger than any blade. Hours seemed to pass like minutes. The chamber shook again as one of the saboteurs attempted to override the energy shields manually. Ethan anticipated the move. He directed a group of smaller delegates to create a diversion, while he rerouted energy through secondary systems. The saboteur was trapped, unable to escape, and eventually captured by the court's security forces. When the last intruder was neutralized, the court fell silent. The chamber doors opened, the alarm ceased, and delegates looked around in disbelief. Humans, it seemed, had survived a threat that could have toppled even the strongest empire. Lady Salith stepped forward. "Do you see now?" she asked, her voice strong and clear. "This is why I claimed him. Not because of his strength, not because of his weaponry, but because of his courage, intelligence, and will. Humans do not merely survive, they find solutions where others see only danger." Ethan turned to the court. "My species has always survived because we act when it matters most. We do not rely on fear or power. We rely on observation, on understanding, and on the ability to make choices that matter. Today, I acted not as a warrior, but as a human. And my species will continue to act, adapt, and endure." The delegates whispered to one another. Some were amazed, some were fearful. Many had underestimated humanity, and they had been proven wrong in the most dramatic way possible. The head of the court, the massive 12-eyed being who presided over the Galactic Concord, spoke at last. The human has proven extraordinary. Further discussion will be required, but one thing is clear. Humanity cannot be dismissed lightly. They are capable of courage, intelligence, and problem-solving far beyond what we imagined. Even those who had opposed the human before were forced to reconsider. Some were angry, some were impressed. Some were thoughtful, realizing that the galaxy had been ignoring a species that was far more capable than anyone had believed. Salith turned to Ethan once more. "You have exceeded my expectations," she said softly. "Humans are more than I imagined. You are not weapons. You are not tools. You are not weak. You are extraordinary." Ethan gave a small nod. He did not celebrate. Humans did not celebrate survival, they simply moved forward. They learned, they adapted, and they prepared for the next challenge. That was enough. As the court session ended, delegates whispered to each other in every language, from high-pitched chirps to deep vibrations. Humanity, the species they had dismissed as weak and insignificant, had shown true strength in a way none of them had expected. They had acted without arrogance, without brute force, and without fear. Ethan walked beside Lady Salith as they exited the hall. The Krillian noble's hand brushed lightly against his shoulder, not in ownership, but in acknowledgement. She had chosen a species she believed capable of greatness, and today they had proven it. The corridor outside the court buzzed with murmurs. Delegates paused to watch the human and the Krillian noble walk together. Some of the most powerful species in the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were small, yes, but their intelligence, adaptability, and courage made them a force to be reckoned with. For Ethan, the test was not yet over. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats, challenges, and dangers. But today, humans had proven one undeniable truth. No matter how small, no matter how underestimated, they could survive. They could overcome. And they could inspire even the strongest species to reconsider everything they thought they knew. As he walked through the corridors, Ethan thought of the future. More challenges would come, more tests would arrive, but humans were ready. They had survived the impossible before, and they would do so again. And the galaxy would watch and learn to respect the strength of will that defined humanity. The message was clear, even to the skeptics. Humans might appear small, fragile, and weak, but their intelligence, courage, and resilience made them a species capable of greatness. And Lady Salith's choice was no longer just a claim. It was a statement that the galaxy would remember for centuries. The Galactic Court had never been so tense. The whispers about humanity filled the corridors like a low hum, spreading from one delegate to another. Some species remained skeptical, still doubting that a human could truly be as remarkable as Lady Salith claimed. Others had begun to reconsider everything they thought they knew. Humanity was no longer a minor species. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of courage that no one could ignore. Inside the chamber, the delegates gathered for the final session. Lady Salith stood at the center, her green eyes calm but shining with determination. Beside her, Ethan Hale walked confidently, his calm demeanor unshaken by the whispers or the gazes of 1,000 eyes. He had survived sabotage, guided the court through a crisis, and proven humanity's worth. Now it was time for the galaxy to recognize it officially. The head of the court, massive and multi-eyed, spoke first. "We have seen actions that challenge every assumption we held. This human has demonstrated intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness beyond what most of us expected. Yet we must decide, can humanity be considered a worthy participant in galactic affairs?" Some delegates murmured objections. "They are small," said one, a towering creature with crystalline skin. "Their fleets are tiny. Their weapons are insignificant. How can we call them worthy?" Ethan did not answer. He knew this was not a matter of size or technology. Humans had always succeeded because of strategy, will, and determination. Strength alone did not define a species. The galaxy had already seen that today. Lady Salith raised her voice, cutting through the murmurs. "I claim this human because he represents humanity at its best. You have witnessed what he can do, not with strength, not with intimidation, but with cleverness, courage, and adaptability. Humanity is capable of greatness, and it is time the galaxy recognizes it." A wave of silence followed. The delegates studied the human envoy, seeing him not as a fragile creature, but as someone who had already survived what would have defeated many others. Then came the first vote. It was not unanimous, but it was clear. The tides had shifted. Many species who had doubted humanity now saw a new truth. Humans were capable of extraordinary action. They were not weapons, but they were not insignificant. They could be allies, leaders, and partners. Ethan listened quietly, standing tall. He did not boast because humans rarely celebrated success. Instead, he allowed the recognition to speak for itself. Humanity's place in the galaxy would no longer be defined by assumptions of weakness. It would be defined by action, courage, and intelligence. The final vote was announced. Humanity was officially recognized as a worthy species. Their rights to participate in galactic affairs were affirmed. Delegates whispered in awe, realizing that the species they had ignored or underestimated would now have a voice in shaping the future of the galaxy. Lady Salith turned to Ethan. "This is more than a claim," she said softly. "It is a declaration of respect, of partnership. Humanity has earned it, and I am proud to have chosen you." Ethan nodded, acknowledging her words. He had not sought recognition for himself. He had acted for his species, for humanity. Today, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability were as powerful as any weapon. Outside the chamber, the news spread faster than any fleet. Across planets, systems, and starships, species discussed humanity's rise. They whispered of the small human who had faced impossible odds and guided an entire court through a crisis. They marveled at Lady Salith's choice and the courage she had recognized in a species so many had dismissed. In the court corridors, delegates approached Ethan with a new respect. Some offered alliances, some sought advice. Even former skeptics nodded, silently acknowledging that humans were no longer to be underestimated. Ethan moved through the hall calmly, aware of the weight of what had just occurred. Humanity's position had changed in the galaxy forever. Not because of power, not because of weapons, but because of a species' ability to act when it mattered most. Lady Salith walked beside him, her presence a reminder of the extraordinary partnership that had formed. She had chosen a human not to dominate, but because she recognized their potential. And now, humanity's reputation was no longer fragile, it was respected. Later, in a quieter room away from the main chamber, Ethan and Salith spoke privately. "You trusted me," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "Even when the court doubted, even when others thought humans would fail." Salith smiled faintly. "I trusted you because I saw what others could not. Humans are not the strongest physically, but their strength lies in their mind, their will, and their courage. You have proven that today, and the galaxy has seen it too." Ethan nodded. "We will not let that trust be wasted. Humanity will continue to act, to adapt, and to survive. We will continue to prove that size, strength, and technology are not the only measures of power." As they spoke, the sun of the distant system outside the court's windows began to rise, casting long shadows across the hall. It was a symbolic moment, a new era for humanity in the galaxy. An era where humans were no longer underestimated, no longer dismissed, and no longer ignored. The news traveled quickly. Across star systems, humans received messages of congratulations and curiosity. Some species sought to learn from them. Some sought to test them further. But all were aware that humanity had survived the impossible once again. They had proven that intelligence, courage, and resilience were qualities that could match, or even surpass, brute strength. Back in the court, Ethan addressed the delegates one last time. "Humans do not claim superiority," he said. We do not seek to dominate. We act, we survive, and we learn. We hope that by doing so, we can inspire not just our species, but all species to rise above challenges, to work together, and to create a better galaxy for everyone. The delegates listened, some silently moved, some still skeptical but respectful. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer just a small, fragile species. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, not through weapons or fleets, but through action, intelligence, and courage. As Ethan and Salith left the chamber together, the whispers followed them. Not of fear, but of respect. Not of mockery, but of acknowledgement. Humanity had proven its value in the most dramatic and undeniable way possible. Outside the grand hall, the stars shone brightly. They seemed to echo the lesson of the day. No matter how small, no matter how underestimated, the strength of will, courage, and intelligence could change the galaxy. Humans had survived, and in doing so, had shown the universe what it meant to be truly extraordinary. Lady Salith glanced at Ethan, her green eyes reflecting both pride and admiration. "The galaxy will watch you now," she said, "and it will learn to respect humanity as it should have long ago." Ethan gave a small, confident nod. "Then let it watch. We will continue to act. We will continue to survive. And we will continue to prove that even the smallest species can achieve greatness." Together, they stepped out of the court, walking into a galaxy that had changed forever. Humanity's story had begun anew, marked not by fear or weakness, but by courage, intelligence, and the unyielding will to rise above the impossible. And for the first time in galactic history, a human had not only survived the impossible, but had reshaped the destiny of their species and the galaxy itself.